Hey, do you want to come over and make a pot of tea, bring your favorite crystals? We could talk about our birth charts, spirits, the latest house spells we've been doing. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm that witch next door. All right, we're going to dive right in today because I'm having a really hard time showing up today. I normally would not record. We would skip an episode normally on a day like today. And because it is Thursday, I would probably skip it for the whole week. I don't really have the option at this point in the week to push it any further. This is normally a time I would cancel an episode. But today we are going to, today I'm going to still show up. And today we're going to talk about struggling and maintaining magic and mindfulness. And we're going to talk about this in real time with me. Hi, if this is your first time here on my channel or on my podcast, I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. I'll be your host today. I will be a type of guide. And normally I am I'm an instructor, I'm a mentor in modern witchcraft and cosmic living. I love to cozy up with you and chit chat and be your bestie in all things modern spirituality. And today I am definitely showing up in bestie energy. From me to you, neighbor, from you to me. This is a tough time right now. And there are all kinds of reasons why we're struggling. Lots of those reasons are shared experiences. And we are collectively experiencing, processing, and coping and moving through those things together. I'm not going to talk about those specific things today. What I do know in my own personal life and in what I have observed for quite some time now is that on top of the many, many struggles that we are collectively moving through, we each seem to have our own special brand of the struggle lately. There is not just everything going on in our big external and outer world. There has been a lot going on in our personal and inner worlds for many, many of us. And even though normally what I do is I really just honor the space that I'm in, and I'm like, this is not a day that I need to force myself to show up on, on camera, on mic, whatever. And I'll maintain that in the future because it's normally a self-care move. Normally I need this space to kind of ground and regulate. Today was the first time that I kind of paused for a second and realized this particular time, this particular struggle, I think it might be a good thing for both you and I if I show up today. And I'm showing up very real. I am not here to sugarcoat my own situation nor anyone else's. So that is step one of maintaining mindfulness and magic, even when you're struggling, is just being realistic about it. Positive bypassing and toxic positivity is not a help. Reaching intentionally for positivity, especially when you're really, really needing it, that can be a useful tool. But when we use it to constantly avoid the difficult, and when we use it to avoid any of the uncomfortable feelings, avoid any of the difficult thoughts, we really actually are doing ourselves such a massive disservice. So the first thing is that we own up to it. And this is something that, that leads me typically to my, unfortunately, I'm not going to record today. This means I'm going to skip the episode, et cetera, et cetera. That decision for me is usually very rooted in when I finally kind of name it and say it out loud and say, I'm not doing this. I'm having a hard fucking time. And I'm going to just let the fact that I'm having a hard time be the focus and be what I nurture and what I move through, instead of trying to pretend around it or trying to force it away or trying to avoid it. It's going to find my ass and consume it anyways. That's why toxic positivity and constantly using positivity to bypass doesn't help, and why it ends up having more harm on you than good. Positivity needs to be used intentionally. And just like all of the other good, nice feeling parts of our life, positivity is just as fleeting as any range of the human experience. Our positive experiences are just as temporary and fleeting as our negative experiences are. And so when it's time to be negative, to feel the negative, use that intentionally as well. That's what I'm doing today with you. I am in really tough space right now. Really tough space. It's super hard for me to be on camera right now. And I almost didn't do that either. But I really, really, really wanted to show up in that bestie energy today and be like, hey, these days find me too. I'm no exception. That's for sure. I think that on social media and all of these different platforms where we consume each other's content, it's just so easy to forget that almost everything we see has been created, filmed, edited, posted on the good days, when things look not just good, but their best often. And hi, I'm a real human too, just like you. And shit is hard right now. Shit is hard right now. So first of all, I'm on day 2 of my period, my cycle, and have had zero of the emotional relief yet to be expected. I feel like I am in the days leading up to my period. I feel like I'm in the thick of my luteal emotions right now. So right off of the bat, I am more tired. I have less patience to offer. My window of tolerance is already smaller right now. If you're a person with a hormonal cycle, you also understand that the luteal phase tends to be accompanied by very, very harsh self-criticism. So that's where it's extra hard for me to be on camera right now. Part of it is because I am just beyond critical of myself in this moment. I don't want to look at myself. The second I do look at myself in a camera or a mirror or any reflective surface, instantly I start picking out and focusing on everything I absolutely hate right now. So this is part of naming it and part of the truth around it. I started mentioning it a little bit last week, but our dog, our pup, Angel, is having some health issues right now. We have had on and off parasite and digestive issues basically since we adopted her. And part of that is because she was a rescue, and it's very, very common when they go in and out of shelters, and especially before they even get rescued. It's really common for them to struggle with things like parasites and digestive problems. Most recently, she contracted Giardia. We're not exactly positive when she contracted it. If you don't know anything about the parasite Giardia, it's a bitch. It is insanely easy to pass and receive. It's insanely easy to reinfect themselves. And it comes with a boatload of intestinal issues and symptoms. And so all these things can make it really, really tricky to fully clear. Right now, at the time of my recording this, we are at this little limbo halfway point, and things have really, really gotten to me. So because Giardia is so easy to spread, and it is a fecal to oral infection route, and because our sweet little gal has developed a habit or is struggling with an instinct to investigate and try to eat her own feces right now, that is very likely how she has gotten it and probably continued to reinfect herself. And so now that she has had her diagnosis, part of her treatment is you basically have to go outside with her and really, really supervise her the entire time she's outside to make sure that she can't get to any of her old poop piles that are out there. And of course, the first logical step is, Danny, why don't you guys just pick all of it up? Because at the time of receiving her diagnosis, we also were in receiving of our biggest snowstorm we've had this season. And at the time of receiving her diagnosis, it was impossible to pick up any old piles because they are all deep under snow, which doesn't take care of the problem because dogs, like Angel, have really, really good noses and can be, like Angel, very, very stubborn and determined to find them. So you have to supervise her. Some days, if you've really had it, you can try and put her on the leash while you take her back there just so that she can't go that far and whatnot. But she's in her teenage stage. She's about 14 months old. She's in her teenage stage. And when she's in the backyard, which is a place she's used to roaming free, and you put her on her leash, she throws an absolute puppy tantrum, which isn't impossible to get through. But at the same time, it's just another problem that you encounter. So most of the time, the easiest thing to do is to just follow her around. And because of our weather, because of the amount of snow that we've gotten, every time you have to go outside, you have to fully suit up because of how much snow is back there. And if it's at night, possibly even in the middle of the night when that happens, you have to bring the flashlight out and everything, follow her around. It's taken up a ton of my time, and it's taken up a ton of my mental capacities. I honestly hesitated even sharing about it because it sucks and it's gross, and I didn't know if this was just going to be like this pointless. People are going to be like, why the hell is Danny talking about this? But the truth is because it's the truth. It's what's going on. It's been going on in my life for 3 freaking weeks now. And we're at this halfway point where she's finished her meds, but we are still a full week out from being able to retest her and see if she's clear. And there, over the last couple of weeks since she's been in treatment and now finished her meds, there have been at least 2 times that she definitely discovered under the snow old piles. And it is unconfirmed if she got to it or not. Like if she licked it or ate it. And again, I know this is all disgusting, but this is what's literally going on in my fucking life. And so every single day, I have to take things one day at a time. Like It's so easy for me at any point in the day right now to live weeks into my future. And it is hard. It is really hard for me right now not to obsess. Does she have it? Does she not? Does she have it? Does she not? Does she have it? Does she not? We have luckily been sleeping through the night the last couple of nights, but there have been several nights that she's gotten up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, or even if she just gets up to get a drink of water, even if she just gets up to adjust herself in her bed. I am such a sensitive sleeper already. And on top of that, I'm so worried that her symptoms are going to come back because I'm so obsessed and worried that she has it still or that she gave it to herself again. I'm constantly ready for her digestive symptoms to show up again and to be ready at the drop of a hat to take her or to get Jared and have him take her and take her outside. And even if sometimes she does go outside in the middle of the night, sometimes she doesn't, regardless, I'm like not going back to sleep on those nights. So there's a couple nights a week. I technically sleep through the night. And most of the nights of the week, these last several weeks, I am having ridiculously interrupted sleep at night. So my exhaustion has been getting progressively worse and worse. When my cycle rolls around like this and I'm already extra tired. Now, that adds a whole entire layer on top of it. I also have a 7.5-year-old who is in second grade and is at that cusp in childhood where there is a lot of independence that she's developed because she's 7.5 now. And there's still so much that she needs me for, she needs an adult for. And so, lots of the nights that even Angel has slept through the night, Blair's gotten up and come and gotten me in the middle of the night multiple nights throughout this whole entire process. And anybody who's a parent and a caregiver, you just know that the mental load that you carry as a parent. So no matter what's going on in your life, you just always have that mental load and that physical burden of being a parent. And, all the usual. I love it. It's rewarding. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't give it away. Yada, yada. And at the same time, it is a big added layer on top of everything else lately. Then you have being a homeowner. So first of all, no matter what type of home or structure you live in, no matter where you live or who you live with, if you are struggling with random repairs, things going wrong in the home, house projects, random bills coming up, you are not alone. This is totally end of Uranus and Taurus stuff. Oh my God, is there all of this unexpected shit? These unexpected out of left field wrenches being thrown at us in the form of our shelters and our resources, and holy cow, it's already been this hard winter. And I don't know about where you live, but where we live, your utility prices go up in winter, especially for things like energy and your heat. Gotta love that aspect of capitalism, huh? So it's this hard-hitting time for all these different reasons. Family members, bills, keeping up with business and career requirements and deadlines, making sure I'm still here and connecting with you and showing up for my students and showing up for my clients. And by the way, none of this is me saying, that anyone in our community or our neighborhood is adding to my burden. This is truly me showing up equal to equal and saying, you know, this not only happens to all of us, but I would be willing to bet this is happening right now to a crap ton of us. And I want to show up in some serious solidarity with that today and say, it might be hard as hell right now, and I'm not going anywhere. I'll tell you that much. All of these struggles, all of these challenges, all of these stressors, and they're driving me batty, especially her poor little health issues. I just want my sweet little doggy girl to be okay. I just want her to be all right and not be struggling with intestinal issues and digestive issues and parasites. Like, this poor thing has just gone through so much. I just want her to be okay. And then I think about everything going on in our country. I think about everything going on in our world right now, everything that's already been happening right in front of us, everything that's continuing to be revealed. This is supposed to feel like too much. That's why I'm here today, friend, neighbor. This is supposed to feel like too much. It's supposed to feel impossible to show up, and it's supposed to feel impossible to keep going. And the reason I say it's supposed to is because I mean that this is a normal mental and emotional response to the amount of shit we're taking in right now in our inner and outer worlds. It's normal. This is the appropriate response to all of this shit hitting the fan all at once. However, or I should say, and this is definitely a big both and episode. We're validating. And it's hard as crap. And this might surprise you, and maybe it won't, but I don't feel lost in mindfulness right now. I don't feel lost in any kind of mindlessness. And I don't feel disconnected from my magic. And I don't feel disconnected from my spirit team. I don't feel disconnected from my witchcraft at all. Maybe your next question is, have you been doing like spell work and stuff? No, definitely not in the way that you're picturing it. But many years ago, that would be this whole added thing on top of what's going on right now, especially in my career. I would be totally questioning, am I really a witch? Is magic really real? Are my spirit guides and my deities so mad at me right now? Take it from me. Take it from me. A person very familiar with the struggle. No, your magic is not gone. You are definitely still a real witch. No, your spirit guides are not mad at you. And I don't know exactly the deities that you're working with. There are many to choose from. So I can't perfectly blanket statement and say, no, of course not. Maybe there are deities out there that, need regular ritualistic attention. I'm not quite sure. The deities I work with, though, no. And the way that I view source and spirit and divine beings, no, they haven't abandoned me. They're right here with me. They've never abandoned me. Do you want to know part of the reason I know that part? Because long before I was practicing witchcraft on purpose, they were with me. When I reflect back in my life, whether you're thinking of like your guardian angels or any of your protectors and shields on your spirit team, they are with you during your hardest times. So if you work with deities, especially in any type of like protecting sense, or you work with them for building and fostering strength and confidence and all these things, if you go to them when you are in need or in aid of something, no, they do not abandon you. They do not abandon you. In fact, one might say it's kind of their time to shine when you're struggling. So part of the inspiration for my episode today was Something that I've really loved that has surfaced and is kind of trending across social media platforms is people sharing their favorite struggle meals. So if you've never heard of that or seen any of this, I highly recommend looking it up. I have really enjoyed seeing all kinds of different creators showing and sharing their, especially childhood struggle meals, or their current struggle meals, or their college struggle meals, right? Or their broke season struggle meals, but also trying each other's. I really, really love those videos and shares as well, is people trying to make and replicate other people's struggle meals. Struggle meals tend to be this twofold thing: struggling financially, but often also struggling when it comes to like time management and energy and mental capacity. So a struggle meal, in order to qualify, it has to be really, really cheap, really basic ingredients, and super easy, as low effort as possible, but get the job done and be good. That's the point of the struggle meal, is it's good. It's still, you still like enjoy it. Okay. That's part of the reason I love people trying each other's struggle meals. And if you even like barely look this up on YouTube, I swear your algorithm will just like bomb you with all kinds of wonderful videos like this. I've been really, really enjoying them. So I wanted to share with you my struggle magic. My struggle mindfulness. When I'm in a really tough place, magic and mindfulness doesn't leave me, it adjusts. My craft, my spirituality, my intentional living, it adjusts with the seasons and the chapters and the days of my life. And so I want to share with you, when I'm in a struggle season, what my craft looks like, in hopes that you can take at least that one but big, powerful thing off of your list that you don't need to overstress yourself with, pressure yourself with, or punish yourself about. It took me a really long time to learn this, but I can genuinely tell you that I don't worry anymore if this means I'm any less of a witch, or if I have any less connection to my spirit team or my intuition. It takes practice, to rewrite that inner dialogue. Don't get me wrong. It's not an overnight thing by any means, but I do want you to know it's possible from someone who has really had a hard time with that before as well. It's a very common problem. Maybe even more common than you might realize. It's something that I would think every magical practitioner goes through, at least at the beginning, but some struggle with it for much, much longer than that, because there's all kinds of misconceptions that magic and spirituality and witchcraft and mindfulness and intentional living has to look this really certain specific way. But that specific way that we usually are picturing or defining it by is based during times that we are very high functioning and in high efficiency seasons. But that's just what magic and mindfulness looks like during that time. Here's what magic and mindfulness can look like during really tough times. So, first, clothing. Never underestimate the power of your senses and your sensory needs, my friend, especially for my mental health strugglers, for my neurodivergent besties out there. Never underestimate the power of your clothing choices. Take temperature into consideration, okay? Are you a coldie? Are you a hot toddy? What do you need that day? Talk about fabric textures. What are you in need of at this time? Are you needing as loose, as soft, as flowy and comfortable as possible? So you basically feel naked, but the perfect temperature, right? Or are you in need of some kind of boost that adding a little style, adding a little flair, adding a little fashion is going to help? Sometimes that's what the struggle needs. But sometimes fashion has absolutely no place in the struggle. And you need to just give yourself permission for that, my friend. And we as a society, we each get to show up and say, you know what? I'm not going to keep participating in this stupid bullshit middle school, high school mentality that you're like some POS if you need to wear sweatpants for a couple of weeks. For a couple months. You know what I did last week? Because I've been freaking struggling. I got a new pair of sweatpants to add into the sweatpants rotation. You know why? Sweatpants are my go-to right now. They're comfy and they're warm. And it has been cold up here in New England. Cold, cold, cold. Jeans are not cutting it. The jeans are already too tight. They're not warm enough. It's ridiculous. If I put the long underwear under the jeans, it makes the whole entire situation feel tighter. Not happening. Do you know what doesn't do that but keeps me warm and still comfortable? Sweatpants. I got some on Walmart. I got some from the thrift store. It is very easy to make it very, very cheap. Or another option is you can do an extra mini load of laundry each week if you need to, and wash your favorite hoodie, wash your favorite sweats, wash your favorite cozy socks. It can be a smaller load, and you have that ready for you. That is permission you may grant yourself if you need to. Don't underestimate the power of food and hydration right now. Struggle meals and looking that up will be your friend. Finding comforting ways to stay hydrated and nourished is a game changer. I like to balance soul nourishing with body nourishing foods and beverages, aka I started out this morning with a little peppermint mocha can of coffee from Aldi and a donut from Market Basket. Okay, that's how the morning started out. And you know what? It was really, really grounding. Those treats, would you normally call a donut and a freaking can of coffee grounding in the traditional witchcraft spaces? No. In fact, I would be pretty shamed in some old traditional witchcraft spaces. But guess what? It had the opposite effect. It was grounding. No matter, contrary to popular belief, even though it was a highly processed food and a highly caffeinated beverage, it was grounding. Do you know why? It brought me into my body and into the present moment. I freaking stopped to crack open that coffee and taste it and drink it and enjoy it. I sat in the parking lot after I checked out at Market Basket before I had to drive home and continue on my day, and I ate every bite of that delicious donut, and I enjoyed all amazing 99 cents of it. Okay? Today, for $3.28 total, I grounded through some treat food, okay? For lunch, I knew how much me later today and tonight was going to need the benefits of a more nutrient-dense meal earlier in my day. So I focused my lunch on having a good variety of nutrient-dense foods. And I made some really yummy, this little rice and broth situation I've been making lately, and it's wonderful. This little Asian-inspired dish that I learned about from one of the amazing Asian food content creators that I follow. It was from, I'll try and find out who exactly it was, but it was one of the Korean girls that I follow, and it was just this comforting bowl of rice and other delicious ingredients and flavors and spices in a nice, comforting, warm bowl of broth. Oh my Lord, that's been one of my go-tos lately. So I was able to throw in some tofu, some beans. I had a little frozen kale, so it was easy to throw that in. And then I seasoned it all up deliciously so. I had a little hoisin, a little soy sauce, a little sweet chili sauce. It was absolutely scrumptious. And I really needed the nutrient-dense food. I knew I was going to need that later today, that I was going to need to be relying on some serious fuel from my food to get through the rest of my day smoothly. So balance. Both were grounding experiences because both were made with intention. Both got me to slow down. And one rule I have for myself, no matter what, is I have to feed myself and I have to hydrate myself. And even if doing it for myself is not enough of a motivator that day, because some days your self-deprecation just, it's really going against you. I do it so that I can show up for other people, whether that's my kid, my husband, my family, my friends, but it's also so that I can be a good community member in the school, here in the neighborhood, but also in my local community, in my town. I also do it so that I can continue to stay informed and not burn myself out, so that I can show up for the world and the sorrow and the tragedy happening in the world as best as I can. Sometimes that's literally my motivator for remembering to hydrate myself, remembering to feed myself, and to transition to our next one, remembering to bathe myself. Again, for my mentally ill, neurodivergent besties and neighbors out there, if you know, you know. And sometimes bathing and showering feels like the hardest thing in the world and like the very last thing that you want to do. It's always worth it on the other side. That's what I tell myself every time. And I don't let myself stop playing that on repeat, on loop in my head. It is always worth it on the other side, no matter how much I don't want to do it right now. It's always worth it on the other side, no matter how much I don't want to do it right now. And I just repeat that as much as I need, even if it's all the way through a very quick shower until I'm on the other side. Because literally, just like I was repeating to myself, as soon as I get to the other side, every single time, I'm like, that felt good. I did need to do that. It doesn't fix everything and make everything better, but it always feels good. It is always a need that I check off. In fact, my rule of thumb, at least a personal pattern of mine, the more I'm avoiding doing the self-care task or activity, the more I am in need of that thing. That's how hardwired I can be to self-deprecate or self-harm or avoid, right? So knowing that pattern about myself, again, I'm mindful in that. And I've learned, the more I'm avoiding this, the more it's a need. And so I don't care what I have to repeat to myself. I don't care how I need to adjust said task or activity to make it as doable and accomplishable as possible. You do it to check it off and get it done, because it is always worth it on the other side, no matter how much I don't want to do it in that moment. Now, movement. This is a tricky one too. Movement means different things for all of us. Movement is something that our bodies need desperately. This is not just, proven and backed by all kinds of actual research. But there's tons and tons of examples throughout nature, throughout our universe. Everything is moving. Movement is a part of it. Knowing when to slow down, when to pause, when to rest, when to stop, very, very important. And we're going to talk about that too. But movement is also extremely, extremely important. The trouble is, if you will, especially if you were born recently in modern history, movement has become this whole entire thing to tackle. Exercise and fitness was something that was modeled for each of us and taught to each of us across a very broad spectrum. And for lots and lots of us, movement, exercise, fitness was or is a part of our trauma, our wounds, something we're addressing in our healing. And so this is one of those things that you really benefit from forming a trusting relationship with you and your body, between your mind and your body, that mind, body, soul connection, if you will. because your body will tell you and is always telling you when it needs to move, when it needs to slow down, when it's needing more, when it's needing less, what kind it's needing, what kind it's craving. And there are all kinds of reasons we may or may not have a strong, trusting bond and relationship between our minds and our bodies. So, I mean, honestly, we could cover that entire episode. You could do an entire episode series on that. But what I will say is that the intentional, mindful thing is it's simply showing up and trying to listen to your body and doing your best to offer it what it's asking for and what it needs. And over time, through little teeny tiny habits, little shifts, little decisions, little actions and inactions, you really do build this strong understanding. You and your body can communicate with each other more and more efficiently over time, even if that's not something you feel super well versed in doing right now. I can definitely tell you that as a person who has experienced a relatively active lifestyle and a relatively sedentary lifestyle, a mixture of the both, extreme ends of both, I can absolutely tell you that it is much more about the regularity. And this is coming from a very able-bodied person with overall lots of my physical health intact and working for me, genetics that are intact and working for me. And so I am one small, really singular, specific voice in that experience. So I don't even attempt to be any type of, counsel or advice giver about how to totally revamp fitness and exercise and movement in your life. What I can tell you is that accomplishable daily or almost daily movement makes a tremendous impact on both my mental health and my physical health. For me, that has looked like a little walk or even just a little bit of outside time every day. And if for some reason the weather is just like so absolutely, definitely not an option, my kind of next go-to for inside movement is I'm a dance party gal. Music is a big motivator for me, and putting on the right playlist at the right time, almost regardless of my mood, including times where I'm like, I do not feel like having a dance party right now. I have been able to kind of tap into my inner child, tap into my inner teenager, put on the right genre or put on the right playlist. And even a 5-minute dance party one time that whole day can make a massive, massive difference. I feel so much more connected to my body. I feel really fulfilled and kind of that hit of dopamine, and overall later on we build a lot of serotonin too. But I really get that nice accomplishing hit of dopamine after I do that movement of I did something today. I accomplished something today. You know what I mean? I moved. I do have ADHD, and I can have what feels like a never-ending motor inside of me sometimes. So paying just as attention to my body and when it needs me to freaking slow down and sit or be fully horizontal and stay that way for a freaking second, that is just as important, honestly. That's something that I've also, really relied on, that strong connection between my mind and my body so that I can listen, hear, pay attention when I'm also needing the rest or the slowdown period so that I can honor that as well. But the reason I labeled this little section as movement and not exercise and not fitness is because, in my opinion, exercise and fitness are under the umbrella term of movement. And I do want you to know that there are all kinds of movement outside of the gym, outside of your typical standard workout, that very much so count as exercise. When I clean my house all day and I do multiple errands and I'm going to multiple stores and walking around them and I'm changing the freaking sheets and I'm going up and down the floors and I'm going in and outside with my dog and I'm answering my kid and then going back to what I was doing, and then she calls me again, so I go back to her and then I go back to what I was doing. Listen, those are the types of days I've definitely hit 10,000 steps, okay? And I didn't do a lick of standard exercise, you know what I mean? But I also did not stop moving that whole day. That was a very physically demanding day. It definitely counted as my exercise. And I also can intentionally use movements. And so this is where you can take a little page out of modern kids books, actually, because something that we're doing more and more for kids these days are brain breaks and movement breaks. More and more schools and childcare centers are implementing these movement breaks to get you up out of your seat, get kids actually moving and wiggling. We know that kids can have such restless energy. They benefit from moving regularly and consistently throughout the day. And guess what? That has a lot of benefits for you too. So sometimes the advantage of being a parent is I can invite my kid into my movement break, or I can ask her to even lead our movement break. And I'll just go to her and say, I need to do something. What do you want to do right now? And I can kind of just let her lead the way. And not only is my brain getting a break, but my body is physically moving as well. But even if you're not a parent, there's all kinds of ways that you can incorporate this as well. First of all, you could definitely do some inner child work and do a little movement or brain break on YouTube. There are a billion free videos out there, and there's all kinds of kid content creators that make these super fun, interactive kind of video game style, kind of like like Trail Runner, Maze Runner, like those types of video games, but you're really interactive. You're the character, and it has these silly things coming up across the screen. They have to dodge or punch or jump over. And, depending on who you are and your silliness level, that might sound absolutely ridiculous, but honestly, don't knock it till you try it, my friend. If you are somebody that's been wanting to tap into and work with your inner child even more, and you could benefit from some creative and new ways of moving your body, I highly recommend checking them out. But you can also do just adult style brain breaks and movement breaks as well. And you can stop, drop, and stretch for a little bit. You can stop, drop, and just do some intuitive movements. You can go for a quick walk around the block. Weather being absolutely making that not a possibility for you, you can physically change the room that you're in even. Getting from one space you've been in for a while and going to another space, maybe doing another activity there, and then returning to your original spot, that can be a movement break and a brain break. Sometimes my brain break is going and finally emptying the dishwasher for the day. This is another time I love to use the tool of music, and I love to put on something that I like to sing and really belt it out. There are so many ways to incorporate intentional movement without pressuring exercise and fitness when you simply don't have the time, or you simply don't have the motivation, or you simply don't have the spoons. Listen, there are days for pushing yourself to get into the gym or pushing yourself to do the workout or whatever. Of course, it's wonderful for our bodies to get our cardio health in and our strength training in. I get that. And listen, sometimes you just don't have it in you to do the standard, traditional, whatever you're picturing is movement and exercise thing. So give yourself permission, maybe even ask for some inspiration or some guidance from your spirit guides or your gods or your higher self or the universe. Give me a sign. What's a great way to move my body right now? Ask your tarot deck. Look up the astrology. See what jumps out at you in your chart. Does it inspire some type of song or mood? Again, I just naturally go right into the music thing, don't I? But honestly, music is powerful as hell. And it is such a strong motivator for me. And it's also a great, great dopamine bridge for me. Pairing music alongside something I really don't feel like doing or I really don't want to do can be such a secret ingredient, whether it's the shower we were talking about that we might be avoiding, the dishes that we might be avoiding, the movement we might be avoiding. Never underestimate the power of music, okay? And another way to kind of incorporate your magic into that is you can even open your music app, whatever you use. If you're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, whatever it is that you use for your music, you can open it up and maybe ask, ground your energy and ask your guides to present you with the type of music your soul is most craving right then and there for whatever it is that you're facing, whatever it is that you need to do. Go with your gut, listen to it, put it on shuffle, take it off shuffle, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to really use the simple but crazy powerful tool that is music, especially during the struggle seasons, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about writing. There's writing, of course, in your journal, but I think that one's pretty obvious when you're struggling, going and venting it out in your journal pages. Lots of us know what we're doing there. Writing lists is something that really, really helps me. Sometimes it's writing out the grocery list. Sometimes it's writing out the to-do list. Sometimes it's writing out a list of all of the biggest things that are stressing me out. Or sometimes it's writing out a huge list on all the fears that are coming up for me at that time. Lists are this secret little weapon that can really help open up different parts inside of yourself, kind of clear out some nooks and crannies that have some gunk, some baggage, some congestion that you maybe didn't even realize that you had. And it gets it all out of this hot mess inside of you. It gets it externally so you can freaking look at it and tackle it or understand it better or categorize it or let it go. Lists don't have to be just for the grocery store or your schedule. They really can and do have a place in your ritual and your witchcraft and your magical work as well. So I can't tell you how many times I have taken a list to my Hades journal and I have just gone in there and been like, here's fucking everything coming out right now. And it is this incredible purge, first of all, that gets a bunch of excess just out and released. It also really, really, really helps put things into perspective. That is usually the most helpful aspect of it for myself. It puts shit into perspective. 99% of the time, all of it felt so much worse inside. And once I'm looking at it and it's living and breathing outside of me, it's not even living and breathing, it's just these words on a page. It feels so much more manageable. I'm usually able to see how low on the fears list it really actually is when I take everything into perspective. It helps me zoom out. if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, you've probably heard me say that about astrology before. And that is one of the things I love the most about astrology is it's a practice and a study tool that helps me zoom out. And writing lists helps me do the same exact thing. So it seems like this silly, silly little thing. Even when I wrote it down, I was like, this is so silly. But at the same time, if you're looking at my recording notes right now, we're reading from a list right now. And it's a really, really helpful and powerful list because I had an idea for what I wanted to talk about in the episode. But this way I was able to make sure that I'm covering everything that I want to cover, that I'm talking about everything I want to talk about, that I'm actually sharing things of value and that are helpful and beneficial to you. So, that's one like little simple way. But again, whether it's like, doing some shadow work for yourself, doing some releasing work for yourself, or taking a step back because everything just feels like so much. Put it in a list and start by asking what can just get cut off of the top right away. What can you give to your gods? What can you give to the universe right away? What in your list? What can you be like, great, that's totally out of my control. Zippity-doo-dah. See you later. What are the things that are in your control or you do have some influence over? Maybe you can look at those a little bit deeper and what are those actual real tangible steps that you could take that might make you feel a little more centered in your stress or in your overwhelm. You can also, by looking at the list, see where you might need help, where you might need support, where you don't have the capacity or you don't have the spoons or you certainly don't have a big enough tolerance window for that right now. And you can look at those items and go, I need to ask for help or I need to delegate this or I need to vent about it to somebody or process through this a little bit more. Don't underestimate the power of lists. Now, the other type of writing that is huge in Struggle Magick for me is writing notes to myself. I do also write a good amount of letters to my gods and my spirit guides, but when I'm struggling, I have gotten more in the habit of writing notes to myself. So I think that I've shared this example recently on the podcast. This was a little Christmas present that Blair gave me. She gave me this cute little beauty and strength journal with this adorable little rainbow diamond pen. And when I saw that and that, through the eyes of my daughter, that she had picked something out for me that says beauty and strength on it, it reminded me immediately that she sees those things in me, even when I don't. And that is what inspired me to turn this into an affirmation journal. So I'm recording while Blair's home from school, which is always a bold move on my part, but here we are. Her ears were obviously burning. Anyways, Beauty and Strength notebook. This has been this really simple but extremely beneficial little practice I've started for myself. And once I realized that she sees this beauty and strength in me, no matter what, even when I'm not seeing that in myself, it helped me realize that I can write positive affirmations and positive attributes or things I like about myself just for me. And maybe, there are other people that this seems more obvious or something that they do for themselves anyways. I'm somebody who kind of struggles with self-positive affirmations. I often write them, and when I do, I share them with other people. And I'm like, oh, here's this affirmation. Would you like to also use it? I have a hard time letting it just be for me. And so this is where the idea for this little notebook came from is these are affirmations that I write to myself that are only about myself, and the purpose of it is to help myself. And I know that if I want to see those types of qualities in my daughter, for example, I also have to live that way. I have to model that as well. I have to show her that she's allowed to center herself sometimes. I have to show her that she's allowed to praise herself sometimes. And if you're anything like me and you were raised that it was automatically selfish to think of yourself in a positive way, that made you arrogant and cocky. Or it means that you're bragging, or it means you're not being grateful for other people, or there was so much more of that burdened on me from a very, very young age than I ever realized until I became an adult, honestly. And I started paying attention to how freaking hard it is to let myself be the center of my positivity or praise or pride even. And let myself be proud of myself. Let myself feel grateful for the work that I've done. So I write different types of positive notes in here for myself, and they're usually based on whatever I need most at the time of writing it. So, for example, I've shared with you some of my struggles from today. And here is my entry from today. I am enough. My efforts are guided and received by the universe. There is softness in my hard moments. There is resilience and strength in my softness. These little notes to myself have honestly become this cornerstone for me this year already in creating my content. I am purposefully writing these little notes to myself before I record episodes, before I record videos, before I post on social media. And I am especially reaching for it on my hard days, during my struggle chapters, my struggle days, my struggle seasons. And going back and rereading them is even more powerful than writing them, by the way. So I highly recommend when you're writing notes to yourself, keep them somewhere. You can burn notes to yourself and, you can visualize the smoke kind of carrying those vibrations out into the universe. But I do really recommend keeping them somehow so that you can go back and read them later, because I just have found that they're way, way, way more profound after the fact. One thing that was really cool that I haven't shared on the podcast yet is Blair is very, very interested in all the things that I do with this notebook because she gave it to me for Christmas. She picked it out in a really special way, so it was already a special gift to her. And when I told her how I was starting to use it, it's just become this even more special object to her, and she thinks it's so cool that I do that. Well, last week I came in here to write in it, and some little pieces of paper fell out. So these little notes here were in the notebook. They're dated, January 24th, so not that long ago. And one of them says, "You're the best." And the other one says, "You are the best mom ever. You're ever the mom best. And I love you. You work so hard and I love you." Another day, I can't remember if it was before or after the 24th, she also wrote me this little, she was writing backwards mirror messages. And so she wrote all of these letters and words backwards and then brought this little strip over to me with a mirror and told me to read the note and reveal the message in the mirror. And it says, "You are the brightest star and I love you. Love Blair to Mom. I love you. Now, she's 7.5. To her, she's like, oh, this is like this cute, happy note to my mom. My mom, I love writing notes to Blair. So like we kind of have this little habit of writing each other notes. But the fact that she had the unforeseen intuition to write it backwards so that the message had to be revealed in a mirror. Like, first of all, how witchy and how metaphorical is that? Without her even realizing it, she was having me do mirror work and self-affirmation work. It was absolutely amazing. But all of it gave me a great idea and was something I really, really wanted to include on the episode today because, you can dedicate like a little notebook like I did to these little love notes to yourself. But I also thought it would be cool if maybe you also wrote these little surprise notes to yourself and you stuck them in random little places that you'll eventually forget about and you'll happen upon them later. And I bet you'll find them when you end up needing them most. And then I also thought that a fun activity might be writing your letters and your words backwards so that your message can only be revealed when you're holding it up in front of a mirror, which is just a really, really powerful amplification ritual for that self-care and self-love work. So shout out to Blair for this little segment of the Struggle Magick episode for sure. Now, don't forget, taking a break is also magic. Knowing when to rest, when to pause, when to slow down, all of these are just as powerful as knowing when to get up, when to move, when to take the first step. And hold on, now I've got a puppy. I love all of these interruptions for the struggle episode because, again, this, my friends, is real magic for real life, and we continue trucking along. Knowing when to rest, knowing when to take a break, these are also just as important as knowing when to start moving and when to get going. And we've talked about this astrologically speaking on the podcast so many times because one of the biggest astrological symbols for the necessity of slowing down, resting, stopping, even retracing your steps, going backwards even, is the planetary retrograde cycle. I would also add in the void, of course, moon. That would also be a big astrological symbol of that necessity of our lives. But the retrograde, the planetary retrograde, this is a very, very big astrological representation of the fact that we are not meant to constantly and forever, unending, move forward, never stop moving, never go back, never pause, never stop, never rest. I mean, the fact that we require the amount of sleep that we do every single day as humans, and the massive impacts that lack of sleep and lack of rest has on our, even just our physical health, let alone our mental health, are also huge, huge symbols for the fact that, yes, we are meant to slow down sometimes. We are meant to rest. This counts and also goes for your magic, your spiritual path, your ritual work. Sometimes your witchcraft is going to reflect the necessity of rest and taking a break. And honestly, that's what Struggle Magick is all about. Most days when I'm in this kind of space, I am not lighting candles. I'm not burning incense. I'm not pulling tarot. I don't look up transits for myself. I feel very, you know, I don't want to say I feel disconnected from, but I don't feel called to. That's what I should say. I don't feel called to those more traditional rituals and aspects of witchcraft and magic. And instead, I am choosing what to put on TV based on what my energy needs that day or what I hope to kind of manifest for myself. And that is witchcraft. Sometimes when I'm having to take Angel outside again in all my freaking snow gear, truck along beside her and watch her every move. Sometimes what the magic looks like in that moment is bringing myself into my body and really intentionally feeling the snow underneath my feet, underneath my boots, and like leaning into the crunch and really listening to the sound and really reminding myself of how cleansing snow is, of how insulating and protecting snow is, how necessary the cold is. It also even brings in some gratitude work because it might be balls cold outside, but guess what is not outside? Ticks. You know what's awesome about walking through the woods in the really frigid winter temperatures? There's no ticks. It's awesome. I love it. And I have this huge, huge moment of gratitude for real. For real, this huge wave of gratitude will rush over me and I'll be like, oh, I love winter. No ticks. That is what my magic looks like most of these days. Taking a brief moment to feel the warmth of the sun hitting my face, whether I'm standing at a window or again, I'm standing outside with her or I'm going to get the mail or something like that. Sometimes what the struggle magic looks like is cleaning. Honestly, like finally deep cleaning the bathroom after putting it off for a while, or cleaning out the kitchen sink because it really could use it. These types of like little tidying up, cleaning and getting out the clutter out of nooks and crannies, getting all the dust bunnies, disinfecting. Those are really, really cleansing practices, of course, but they're actually very, very connective practices as well. And maybe it's a little easy for me to say that because I'm such a hearth and home witch, but at the same time, the act of cleaning anything is so obviously cleansing when it comes to energetic practices. And whether it is just cleaning out a little drawer, tidying up my desk space, making the bed. That's a really, really big one. And we don't even have like decorative pillows or anything like that, but just making my bed so that it's like fresh from last night and ready for a new night. Huge, huge for me. I am like a chronic leave my shoes everywhere person. It's like one of my biggest things that I have a hard time with doing. And even just walking around and getting my shoes and putting them back where they're supposed to go, that's a cleansing ritual. That is cleansing magic for me. And these little simple tasks that I move through mindfully, and I ask myself in the moment, here's what I'm doing physically. What might the energetic symbol of what I'm doing be? What am I communicating to the universe by doing this physical activity? That little reflection process in and of itself is my magic. Now, that kind of brings me to my next point here, which is thinking, reflecting, and talking or communicating to spirit or to your higher self. That's it. That's the ritual. I'm serious. So much of my witchcraft practice, of my relationship with my deities, is from thinking. I ponder things a lot. I ask these big questions and I think about them and I discuss them. And sometimes I discuss them all completely in my mind. And sometimes I discuss them out loud back and forth between myself and my higher self or my guides. And I say what's on my heart and what I'm thinking. And then I intentionally give space and I continue doing like whatever activity I'm physically doing. And I intentionally listen. I let whatever natural response to my question come through. And I trust that what's coming through is what I need to hear in that moment. And sometimes whatever's coming through is from a spirit guide or from a God. And sometimes it's my higher self. Sometimes it's just another part of this self who needs to be heard and listened to right now. I know that it might sound silly and maybe goes without saying to suggest intentional thinking and reflecting and energetic dialogue. But if I'm being like totally blunt and honest, I think that there are large groups of our population that don't do any type of intentional or critical thinking at all. So in my opinion, engaging in that is a very body and mind and soul nourishing activity. It's very, very good for my mind. And it also builds strength and builds that bond between myself and my intuition, between myself and my spirit team. Some of my most profound and big ideas for episodes and content and some of our most favorite discussions you and I have had together here on the podcast came to me because I was intentionally reflecting about something while I was putting the dishes away or while I was cleaning the bathroom or while I was vacuuming or whatever, while I was driving, while I was eating lunch or cooking. So it might sound like a duh thing, but I actually think that it's kind of not. And it's something that we can intentionally create a little bit more space for. And it's something that we can do even when we have very, 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 very little spoons, is to allow ourselves to simply be in even just somewhat of a reflective space and a receptive space to be allowed to ask questions. When I'm in struggle magic mode, I'm usually talking about, venting about, or asking questions about my struggles that I'm having. It's very similar to like the list that I list out. Sometimes I do this verbally, or sometimes I kind of do this in my mind. And it is where some of the most powerful full circle and connection points come through. It's where some of my strongest downloads have come through. And it's something that, again, I do not think nearly enough people create intentional time for and hold space for. So not only do I highly recommend it, if you're somebody that already does that, I want to validate that as a form of powerful ritual and spiritual work. Last suggestion. Take the little opportunities to help someone out. This might sound a little counterintuitive if you are struggling. It might sound like something that's not very easy to do or maybe even impossible to do if you're struggling, but it's not. I have 2 examples from my day just today. And boy, was this morning a struggle bus morning or what? I had a big reason why I had the problems that I was having this morning is between the trifecta that I already have a low small tolerance window because I just started my cycle and apparently all my luteal phase symptoms are carrying over into this one. And also my ADHD symptoms are worse and harder to manage at this time in my cycle, which means my time management is one of the top things that I have a hard time with during this time. And when that's going on, usually what happens is I end up with a day like today where I accidentally overbooked and I do not physically have enough time in the day to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished. And I have no choice but to adjust. And that usually means that things have to totally come off the list altogether. And while that's all well and good, it puts me in a really even shittier mood when I have to do that, because it feels like I'll never figure out how to properly manage my time. And I kind of beat myself up for getting to that place in the first place, all these things. So time and struggling with time and needing to finish certain things in a certain window of time was at the top of my mind today, especially this morning. And I want you to imagine for a second, when you're out and about in the world and somebody is running late or they're in a place where they're really struggling with their time management, what do those interactions usually look like? They usually are crap. It's usually we're all so impatient. We all have our own crap going on and stressors going on. And so we're impatient with each other. And we get really, really self-focused. And we kind of get tunnel vision. And all we can think about is doing our next thing, our next step. And so what? This is when we cut people off while we're driving. This is when, we're really not paying attention to our surroundings and what other people are going through. First grocery store this morning, because I had to go to 2. I went to Aldi and Market Basket today. First at Aldi, there were several people in the same boat as me, and you could tell, again, from all the examples I just said, we could all tell what we were all going through. One person who was definitely having their own struggle morning was a mom and 2 kids. And overall, these were wonderfully behaved kids, and they were doing a great, great job. And they were also being kids. And she was also a mom who was overstimulated and trying to grocery shop with 2, even though they were clearly very wonderful with 2 kids, both with fully operating minds and bodies of their own. It's hard enough for me to go grocery shopping with my one child, and I could just really, really feel for her. And we kept having we would cross paths with each other, this woman and I. And it just so happened, it was nobody's fault ever, but it just so happened every time I'd round the corner and she was right there, she would happen to be blocking that part of the aisle or the walkway or whatever. And she would instantly do the cultural thing of, oh, I'm so sorry, And every single time I encountered her, I made a point to stop myself and show her as much physical patience as possible, in my body language, and then back it up with my words. And every single time I would put a hand out and I would say, seriously, no rush, take your time. It's all good. It was 2 forms of struggle magic. One, it was a reminder to me. Every time that happened, it was a beautiful little sign from the universe. Slow down, pause. It's okay to go slow today, right? You don't need to rush through everything. And 2, it was an opportunity to offer somebody something that I could really use as well. I could really, really use a little bit of extra patience and grace on a day like today. And I was able to give that to another mom today. And it was absolutely hilarious because this probably happened 5 times the whole time we were at Aldi, including all the way up until we had checked out and we were walking out the door. And it was not anyone's fault at all. And she happened to turn out right in front of me again. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I just looked at her that very final last time. And I was like, truly, I am in no rush. Take your time. You go ahead first. And you could just see this simple little change in her expression. But I knew, because I'm A, mom, and B, just a human who also struggles, right? I know that even though her facial expression seemed really subtle on the outside, I know that the wave of relief she would feel on the inside was so big and so powerful. because that's exactly how I feel when somebody's able to offer me that type of very genuine grace and genuine patience. Later, I get to Market Basket. If you're not from New England, Market Basket is this great grocery store. I'm totally not even going to do it service because I'm not I'm not native to New England. But it is this great grocery store with great prices and great quality products. But it's very, 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 very popular. And so it's very, very, very busy. And there can be a lot of very quintessential busy grocery store mishaps that you encounter every time you go to Market Basket, aka super impatient people, lots of people only focusing on themselves, kind of not paying attention to their surroundings. It can be kind of an overstimulation nightmare. But if you're also struggling financially, you want to go somewhere where you know you're going to get good quality and save money. And so I really did not feel like the environment of a busy grocery store today, but I knew that the priority was saving money on the groceries today. And so I go into Market Basket. Obviously, the first thing I got was the donut that I knew I was going to eat in the parking lot, the aforementioned donut. I only get the last couple of things that I need that they didn't have at Aldi, and I go get in the little express lane to check out. And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and I'm honestly just feeling relieved that I'm at my last stop and that I'm almost done. And this elderly woman comes up to me, and I had kind of left a little gap between myself and the cash register just so that there was still a little bit of a walkway. And she comes up and she kind of asks me like, "Oh, like, are you waiting in line?" And again, in that moment, I was just glad to be like stopped and sitting there, knowing I was at my last errand and that I was going to go home after that. And that honestly, I had a pretty successful, pretty low eventful trip to Market Basket. And so I just wave her right in, and I'm like, "Oh, you can go ahead of me. It's completely fine." And she, instantly she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, no big deal at all. You can go ahead of me." And she gets in line in front of me. And, I do little things like that plenty, mostly in a little pay it forward mindset. Again, I hope that kind of energy carries on, but I also didn't really think much about it. And then she turned around to me and she goes, "I just want to thank you so much. My husband is out in the car and he's doing really, really badly. I'm very worried about him. And so I'm in here and I'm trying to just grab a few things and I kind of keep losing my head. And just thank you for letting me go ahead because I really want to get back out there to him." And I just like held that space for her in that moment for a second. It was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And absolutely, it's not, it's no big deal at all. Happy to do it. And before she left, she turned around and she did the same thing and thanked me profusely again before she went off. And you could just see the stress and the concern, that this person had for this other person that they love very much that is not doing well right now. And I know that it was so, so simple. We each only had a few things in our grocery cart. It really, on the surface, was just like not a big deal. But at the same time, she really needed that little tiny, maybe not so big deal thing in that moment. And because I slowed down enough, I was able to take that opportunity to do something kind for somebody. And honestly, when you are going through a hard time or you're just in a really tough space yourself, when you can do something even just a little bit helpful and beneficial for somebody outside of yourself, it's huge. It's huge for them. It's huge for you. And I really, really believe that it radiates out. usually in ways we may not see later on, but I really do believe that it ripples out. And I think that we miss those opportunities all the time, especially when we're in a tough place and especially when we're struggling. It's very, very hard to be outside of our bubble or think outside of our bubble when so freaking much is going on inside of our bubble as it is. But that's how huge it can be if you do let yourself slow down, if you are honest and truthful about the fact that you're just having a hard time, if you give yourself permission to adjust because of that, to remind yourself that your magic isn't gone, to remind yourself that you don't have to just sink into numb mindlessness, that you can still be this mindful and intentional person who also might only have half a spoon to give at the time. There are all of these small but hugely effective and powerful ways to move through even the hardest times of your life with magic, with intention. And even if you're struggling, you still can be that witch who is lighting candles and burning incense and casting spells and pulling your tarot cards and remembering to look at the astrology. And maybe you're not. I want you to know that no matter what it is, if it's huge and really, really freaking hard right now, you are not alone. You are not alone. I'm going to keep having bad days too. And I'm also going to keep showing up. We're here for each other more than it may seem sometimes, truly. So I hope that this episode today finds you exactly when you need it. I hope that it's able to give you even just a little bit of sense of relief or solidarity or validation. I'm so incredibly grateful for you, for this neighborhood, for this community where I can just be me. That's ultimately why I knew I could still show up today, even though I'm having a hard time with myself today. I feel so seen and held and supported by you. I know I'm in safe space when I show up to our neighborhood. And my hope is that I can reflect that back to you today. And I hope that that can reflect and refract out into your life, into your internal and external world, in its highest good as well. So neighbor, truly, thank you for your time today and every day on the really good days and the really, really bad days. Until I see you next time, make sure, my friend, that you are out there, you're staying safe. You keep making room for some fun. Don't forget to take care of each other. And of course, stay magical out there. If you enjoyed today's episode, if you learned something, or you just love That Witch podcast, one of the best things that you can do is share the show with a friend. Just by reaching out and sharing the link or recommending us to somebody is hands down the best way to help us grow our podcast here. So you can head right now into the podcast app that you're listening to, and you can directly share this episode by using your little share link button, or you can just take a screenshot or just mention That Witch podcast to whoever you're recommending us to, because you can find That Witch podcast on all major podcast listening platforms. Thanks for being such a great neighbor.